and thank you so much for joining me back here on KB Decor Crafts. Today I'm going to show you how I created these really easy DIYs from Dollar Tree products that I created for my kitchen, and I really think you'll enjoy this. It's very easy to put together, and I use these stencils that really took this DIY up a notch. And don't forget, as always, I'll have the items down in the description below that I used in each DIY. Alright, now let's jump right in. For my first DIY, I used one of these burner cover sets from Dollar Tree, and I used the smaller one out of the two to create my sign. So to begin, I completely painted the front and the back with Waverly white chalk paint, and I made sure to cover the sides as well. And once the front and the top edges were completely dried, I flipped it over and just painted the back and the sides as well. Now, I was given these amazing stencils from a company called Stencil Revolution. I'll have their link down in the description below and more information on my Instagram, but I chose this one that says Our Farmhouse Established, and it also comes with the numbers to be able to create the date that you were established. Most of their stencils come in different sizes. They also sent me the bigger version of this, which I love, that I'll have to put on a bigger sign later on. But for now, this one fits perfectly in this little burner cover. So I'm going to cut around and completely make it a circle to fit just inside. If you choose not to cut this up, you could also stencil this on the back of the burner cover. So now that that's cut down, it fits perfectly inside, so I'm able to start stenciling. Now I chose to start with the wreath part first, so I just mixed two colors of greens that I liked, and with a small stencil brush that would work better if you had the smaller one of the sponge brushes. I didn't, so I had to kind of pinch it in to make it work so I wouldn't get any green on anything else. But I went ahead and started dabbing around the wreath portion of this stencil and continued my way all around the entire wreath, making sure not to get it on anything else. And for the lettering, I chose Waverly chalk paint in the color ink, which is just a black, and I dabbed that all around with my sponge brush on the stencil. Now, if you had the proper stencil brush or a smaller sponge brush, you might not have as much difficulty as I'd had getting in smaller corners, but it wasn't an issue. As you can see, this came out pretty well. I just used a smaller, like a thinner brush to go back in with the paint and fix some edges that I didn't quite get. And to be able to stencil on my numbers, I chose to cut them out, and I took out the 2, the 0, and the 1s to create 2011, since that's the year my family was established. And this was pretty easy to stencil on. I just chose to use a Q-tip since, like I said, I didn't have a smaller sponge brush, but this worked out perfect. So I wanted this to pop out a little more, so I went back in to the black chalk paint and just dabbed the paint around the entire edge of this burner cover. Oh, I love the way this is looking just as is. I think it looks great, but I wanted to give it a different touch, and I added some nautical rope. So I just measured around the entire burner to see how much I needed and cut it out, and then begin to hot glue around. Now, the nautical rope is definitely optional. I think it just helps it look more like a sign, or just sets it apart from looking like a burner cover. So it just, to me, it ends up looking more like a sign, and it also helped me in the long run when I created a way to hang this up. So naturally, I wanted to use the nautical rope to hang this up as well. I didn't just want to attach just the rope looking just as is, although it looks great. But I had the idea to use some floral wire and to wrap around the ends of both sides of the rope, just to give it a different type of look. And I actually like the way this turned out. I did have to wrap this several times in order for it to show up the way I wanted to. If you have some sort of thicker wire, that would work better, but this is just a black floral wire that I got from Dollar Tree. And then just going with some hot glue right behind the nautical rope that I wrapped around the burner cover. Just go ahead and glue on both ends as to how you'd like it to be hung up. And then you're all set. I love how this turned out. I don't have anything in our house that represents when our family was established, so this was a perfect little sign for us, and the stencils worked out great for this DIY. Moving on to the next DIY, I got inspiration from a Pinterest pin that I saw of a farmer market sign to hold your fruits and vegetables. I thought this was really cute, so I wanted to create something similar, but I got inspiration also from Bethany, who is just an amazing DIYer, and I got the inspiration to use the baskets that she used from Dollar Tree, and this is just my version. So I used the rulers from Dollar Tree, and then the jumbo paint stir sticks I actually got from Walmart, and they come in a pack of 3, and these work out great to frame out what I needed. And I also only used Gorilla wood glue to hold everything together. And for this project, you'll need 2 of the jumbo sticks and 5 rulers. And to get everything ready, I started by removing the measurement strips that come on these rulers. They're very easy to take off. They're just stuck on, and you just peel them off. I began by mapping out where I wanted each ruler to go. I lined up my 2 paint stir sticks, and then with the rulers just mapped out on top of where I wanted them. I wanted 3 on top for my stencil, 1 in the middle, and then 1 on the very bottom. Now, before gluing anything down, I wanted to see how the baskets were going to lay against this frame. So I just measured out where I wanted them to be and how much of a distance I needed them to be apart from each other. Now here's just a different angle so you can see how this is going to turn out. Now with my Gorilla wood glue, I just began gluing down the rulers. Now putting 3 on top also gave me enough room for my stencil, but it also helped to cover the top portion of the paint stir stick that kind of has that weird like indent for your hand to hold. So yeah, that's why I used 3 on top. Now, I definitely recommend to use some sort of wood glue for this project. I don't think that hot glue would sustain any weight that you're going to put on this if you're going to put anything in your baskets, but the Gorilla wood glue did the trick. Now I gave these a good couple hours to dry, and then I came back with some Waverly wax antique paint to paint this entire piece. Now what I love to do to give it more of a stained look is I'll paint it all on, and then with the paper towel I'll go back in and just take off any excess paint, and it helps to just have that wood grain show up a little bit better. Now this is what the whole piece ends up looking like. I think it looks awesome like this, and I just set that off to dry entirely before continuing. That it was dry, it was time to start stenciling my kitchen sign on the top portion of this frame. And I chose this one from the Stencil Revolution company because I thought it would be perfect. I knew I wanted something to put in my kitchen, and this was a perfect stencil for me. So I went ahead and used some painter's tape to keep that in place, and then with some white Waverly chalk paint, I did the same thing I did with my other one, which was use the bigger stencil or sponge brush that I had and just stenciled on the entire piece. Don't forget to check my Instagram to get more information on Stencil Revolution and where you can get these stencils along with many others that they have on their website to create your own projects. I really love how this stencil turned out. It was exactly what I had in mind when I was creating this sign, and it gave it that farmhouse feel that I wanted for my kitchen. Now this is where I got Bethany's idea from. I used the zip ties that I got from Dollar Tree, the long black ones. And then these baskets weren't the best that I chose from Dollar Tree. They were a little crooked and just not proportioned correctly, but I tried to make the best out of them. And as she suggested to do, I add on 3 of the zip ties to keep this on and to hold up whatever you wanted in there really nicely. And this actually worked out really great. And the best part is that if I choose to go back to the Dollar Tree one day, I can find some better baskets and just cut off the zip ties and add them on. I really wanted to add on some hooks to the bottom of this. The only ones I had on hand were from this plant hanger from Dollar Tree. I just removed them off the chains, but I'm going to keep the chains for a later project. But these hooks actually ended up working out great for what I needed. Now at the time I didn't have a power drill to create a hole through the ruler for the hook, so instead I used the smallest screwdriver that I had in my set and just continued to push through until I created the hole. Now if you do have the proper tools for this, definitely recommend using that because this took a good bit to get the hole through. But in the end it worked out perfectly and I was able to hook on the hook, and then using a pair of pliers, I just squeezed the back of that so that it wasn't going anywhere. Also, just to note, I did use 2 of the plant holders from Dollar Tree to get both of these hooks. And here is the final look. I already hung it up on my wall in the kitchen with just 2 little nails. That's all it needed. And I don't intend on putting too many heavy things in the baskets to make sure that it's not going to fall, but this was the perfect spot in front of my sink, and I just put in what I had on hand. I had a few little lemons, and then some carrots from the Target dollar spot too. And since I had 2 hooks at the bottom, I decided to hang up my little farmhouse sign and add a little kitchen towel to complete this entire look. I love how this turned out. It was the exact farmhouse feel that I wanted for my kitchen, and this was a perfect spot for it. I just want to take a moment to say thank you so much to all of you that have given me the time to grieve and to deal with my personal issues. But I thank you all so much for continuing to support me and to watch my videos. If you did enjoy this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to get more easy DIYs like these, and I'll see you all in my next one.